Benvenuti a tutti nel frattempo. Welcome to everyone. Thanks for being with us today. I can, yeah, yes. Yeah, we are using a tool called program that is called Zoom Webinar. Maybe you are used to use Zoom meetings, which is another tool, but with this webinar tool is slightly different. You are not seeing each other's faces, but we can open up your mic to ask questions, and we will probably do it at the end of the session. No, we are not seeing or hearing you right now. I think that we can start. It's 4:30. So do you agree, guys? Do we start?
Yeah, maybe we can start with a small presentation, yeah, of us also.
Okay. So thank you everyone for being here today. Let's start with the first of a series of 10 webinars called Find Your Way in EU. Thanks for having chosen to spend this couple of hours with us today. I am Federico Borreani, and I am the president of a consultancy firm based in Bologna called BAM Strategie Culturali, BAM Cultural Strategies. I'm going to present later what we do when we are, so I'm not boring you now with my business case, because I'm going to present it in a few minutes. Together with me, there is my colleague Massimo Finistrella that will take care of the technical side of the webinar and also answer to your questions and maybe to your need if you have any. And together with us, there is Antonia Silvaggi from MeltingPro Learning, which is another consultancy company based in Rome. And she's going to present to you what they do in a while. We can start, first of all, telling you about us. This series of webinar is made possible by a European project that is called Chebec. Chebec is a project based here in Bologna because the lead partner is the region Emilia-Romagna, is Arter, which is it's a firm owned by the Emilia-Romagna region. And the Chebec project is a project that works for the internationalization of the cultural and creative enterprises, of the cultural and creative industries, and works to enlarge the market of cultural and creative industries. The project had to end in Bologna with a big European event this spring, but of course, due to the coronavirus emergency, this final event of the project could not be put in place. And so the Municipality of Bologna and the incredible office of the Municipality of Bologna, incredible is the office that deals with the cultural and creative sector of the Emilia-Romagna and of the city of Bologna. The municipality decided to invest the budget, the final budget of this project that they had to invest in this big event in a series of webinar, in a opportunity of training for the cultural sector all around Europe. Today we had almost, I think, more than 30 people subscribed to the webinar, and we had subscriptions from Italy, Spain and Portugal, I think, at least, maybe also France. So we're very glad to also to have the opportunity to connect with all of you. This series of webinar and also the mentoring program that we have the opportunity to set for the next weeks and months are made by this project, but in collaboration with our firm, BAM, and together, and we decided to do it together with other consultancy companies, especially MeltingPro Learning. I presented to you Antonia before, but also in Europa, which is a consultancy dealing specifically with European projects planning. And this is the first part of the series of webinar that we are about to start today. For the next 3 Wednesdays, we will set a framework that we hope will be useful for you to understand how to deal with the European challenges, we might say. Today, the logic of European funding. Next Wednesday, the map of EU funds. So a much more classical webinar about where is the place of culture and creativity in the general map of EU funding. And then a third one about tools to design your project. So how to deal with building of a project and also of an application, but in general about project planning tools. Then we will start a second part of our series of webinar. We will having 2 webinars a week, not just one. And this should be the last version of our schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting from the 29th of September to the 15th of October. We will write we are in these hours, we are finishing to build the schedule of guests and of themes, and registrations for these 6 webinars will be open next week, before I think before the next webinar, before next Wednesday. We will send you an email saying that the registration will be open, so that you can decide exactly how and when to subscribe. And then for the second half of October, we are thinking to have a final roundtable that we call Towards the Next 7 Years, because many of you may know that the budget of the European Union is built 7 years on a 7 years schedule. So right now is the end of the 7 years that run from 2014 to 2020, and we are seeing the beginning of a new 7-year period from 2021 to 2028. So it would be important also to understand together which will be the differences in the next EU budget, in the next EU priorities. Today we decided, as I was telling you before, not to have a classical introduction, but to have a sort of personal introduction. We wanted to share with you the stories of how European projects were crucial in the development of two business projects. Our business project, the project of our consultancy firm, and the one of the consultancy firm of Antonia, MeltingPro. So our cases will be, first of all, an occasion to get to know you in order for you to know who we are and to understand who is providing to you these webinars. And we hope also to give you some interesting insights in very different approaches to EU funding, because our two stories are quite different, and also make you curious about different kind of European projects, because our two stories cross different territories of EU funding. And then we want to introduce to you some keywords from the European jargon, from the European vocabulary, and to encourage to reflect about what is your role and your position, the position that you may or may not assume to the European funding. Don't worry, because many hints of today will be explored in the next webinars. So if we are just today we will just name some programs, or maybe just put there some hints, but we will get into deep in the next webinars. If today we talk about something that you think is particularly interesting, or particularly that you want to absolutely to know more about, please write to us in order for us to be able to build the next webinars also according to your needs and according to your priorities. Today's schedule. In a few minutes, we will start with the two case studies, BAM case study and MeltingPro case study, and we will do this until more or less 5:30. Then 5:30, 6:30, 1 hour about European vocabulary. So some keywords and some first reflections about what this European funding is about. And then the last half an hour will be devoted to Q&A directly with you. How does it work? It works like that. You can ask questions and make comments about what we are doing whenever you want, using the Q&A question that you find here on Zoom webinar. There is a button somewhere, you should see it down. It's called Q&A, or D&R for the Italian, maybe for the Italian speaking. There are just two rules. You cannot ask or comment anonymously, and you can upvote others' questions. That is to say that if someone asks a question that you think is particularly clever and also useful for you, there is a sort of like button that will pop up, and you can press it just to let us know that that's important also for you. My friend Massimo from the office will collect your questions throughout the 2 hours of our webinar. And in the last half an hour, we will choose maybe the questions that are recurring, or the one that we think are more interesting for anyone, and we will answer. So also, if you cannot stay with us for all the 2 hours and a half, you can ask your questions whenever you want, because then you will see the video recording, because we are recording, of course, this webinar. You can see the recording. At the end of the recording, you will hear our answers. Okay, this is it. The recording of the webinar will be uploaded on the YouTube channel of the city of Bologna in the following days. And we will also send you the link, I think, in between the end of this week. So I hope that before Friday, we can send you the link of the webinar. Voila, just another consideration. It was not easy for us to build this series of webinar for you, and especially this first one, because you are a very diverse group of firms and very different, with very different needs and approaches. We asked you in a questionnaire at the beginning, when you subscribed, we asked you your expectation, and we asked you why, which is your approach to European funding, and you gave us quite diverse answers. So today it's a sort of introduction. We hope that we can be interesting for anyone, and that's why we chose to have a sort of personal approach, in order for you to get some interesting hints from the story of two firms that can be similar to many of you, we think. So we hope that you might enjoy the key that we chosen for the lecture, the webinar of today. Ready, steady, go. We start with two case studies, and ladies first. We start with the case study of MeltingPro. So I ask Antonia to introduce herself and to introduce her business case. I think you will overtake my presentation, Antonia, no?
Yes, thank you, Federico, and I'm happy to be here, and thank you for inviting us, me as a representative of MeltingPro, to illustrate our case, and happy to see many participants online. So I think first things first, I will share my screen, the presentation. So just a second. Okay. Yes, you should be able to see it, right? I think. Yeah. Okay, so first things first. Before we get started with Federico and Massimo, we thought to activate you a little bit. So we wanted to ask you, what is the first word that comes to your mind when we say European funds? So we just ask you to type them in the chat to all the panelists and attendees, and we will get back to this after the first part of the webinar. So let's see, I will just give you a few minutes. Okay, someone wrote in the chat. Okay, okay, we'll please continue to write in the chat, and we will read them, and we will look at them just after, in the middle of the webinar. Thank you very much for being so active. Thank you. So as Federico mentioned, we structured this webinar by introducing our companies as case studies. And although some of you are product or more product oriented, dealing, you know, within the creative and cultural industries, we really, I'm hopeful that our case studies, our case study, can resonate with you and guide you through the European jungle funding system. Okay, let's move on. So, so who we are. So what I would like to do in this presentation is to explain how, as a company, how MeltingPro as a company grew also thanks to the European funds. And how it really helped us to think differently about promoting cultural participation in Italy. And, you know, it was a way for us to test new ideas and to bring them and also in Italy. So I uploaded this photo here. I know there were some people registered also from Valencia, Spain. So this is the National Science Museum of Valencia, and this was one of the first European projects that we did with the museum's professionals there in Valencia, and we were training them in digital storytelling. Basically, this is our stories, and I will try to explain how the European funds helped us in developing our business idea. So, who we are? And we are 7 women. We are from different backgrounds, but from the humanities, from social sciences, social communication, but especially, for example, me, I'm an archaeologist. So I didn't have any project management skills at all, because I've studied fauna remains from the Neolithic area. So really no skills in project management. But what we were, what was common in us was this view, these values of care, empathy, respect, and cooperation. And because we really wanted to open up and to give people opportunities to enjoy the cultural sector in Italy. And I think for us, MeltingPro was a way of challenging the status quo. This is why we decided in nearly 10 years ago to set up MeltingPro as a company. And we really took a big responsibility, and we tried to you know, use our skills for a bigger purpose. And when I say use our skills, it's because we were working in another organization, and we acquired the competencies in applying for EU grants. So this is what we brought as a resource inside the MeltingPro. So I'll go over. So what was our journey? So I will try to explain how at the beginning we used and applied for European funds that were aligned with our mission, our values, and they were aligned to the fact that we were a young company. So as a company, we didn't have a long story or a big portfolio, and also our financial conditions, because I mean, we were a newborn company and we didn't have you know, all this money at the beginning. But as I said, what we had, there were the competencies in applying to EU funds and the capacity to build a strong network. So the first projects that we applied to, they were the strategic partnerships within the now called the Erasmus Plus project. So we really, so we applied as partners and also as project leaders in some of them. And they were all dealing with developing new engaging ways to promote cultural access. I underlined here the word strategic because for us they were really strategic in building a network, building a profile, and also understanding where we wanted to head, where we wanted to go as a company. And then we also had this big opportunity to be partners in Intus. It was a project funded, granted by indirect funds. We will go to the European vocabulary soon after. And this helped us to give us more financial sustainability. And I mean, this project in particular was about digitalization of archives in Corleone, because they had the big process, the archive of the process. I mean, the Italians probably know of the mafia process of Falcone and Borsellino. They are kept in Corleone. And so it was a project to digitalize this heritage and to open up this heritage to the people in the area, but also thanks to digital all over. So basically we started to grow our portfolio, our CV, and we applied to many other different projects like D'Este. I mean, here you have all the links. And so if you are more interested to go deep in each project, you can go. And it was a way for us to even learn, you know, learn new opportunities, meet new people. It is a great opportunity to really develop new services and products. So basically, what I would like to say is also that also our values are aligned with the EU values. And I think that they really give an opportunity to create this space for cultural cooperation and to test and explore new markets. And it really helped us also to, you know, develop a new kind of cultural leadership, which is innovative, thinks about environmental sustainability. It has social impact and financial sustainability. So I think this is, you know, I'm going to close this first part. So I think what I really would like to say is also that we had the possibility to partners with different organizations, university, small, medium enterprises, museum, theaters, NGOs, and we developed together new opportunities for the creative and cultural sector. We are active members of NCAT and Culture Action Europe, which are our doors to the EU trending topics. And we really grew competencies in facilitation transnational working groups. And I think, you know, what we are now is really connected also the European values of cultural cooperation. I hope I stayed in my 20 minutes, Massimo, sorry. And I'll give the floor to Federico. And if you have any questions, I'm really happy to answer them in the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Antonia. I'm going to share my screen and take back the presentation. Just a second. Okay. I think it's okay, no? Massimo, can you give me a...
Yep.
Are we okay? Thank you. So, thank you for the presentation of your case studies. We start with one, which is about BAM, Cultural Strategies, that is the firm that I represent. Get to know better our business that is providing to you with this opportunity of training. The story that Antonia told you was a story of a consultancy, of a business that's starting together with European project, already in a very sudden way, we might say. They grow together with the European project. And for BAM, the story was quite different. BAM is now a consultancy that deals with strategic paths and services for cultural institutions and projects. We are a consultancy firm, and we are also a group of designers that specialized in audience development and audience engagement. And over 100 projects to its name. But I thought that it might be useful for you to know how we got here. We started in 2009 as a group of university mates in Bologna. We were studying together cultural management. We started out as a cultural association. We actually wanted to develop a management project for a new cultural center, but the project never really took off. And so we decided to reinvent ourselves, and we decided to provide services to the cultural sector. The very first big event that we organized in 2010 was a seminar inviting to Bologna an important consultancy that is based in Canada. They're called Lord Cultural Resources. They're very important in the museum planning and the museum strategy field. And that was how we started to be known by the cultural sector in Bologna and in Emilia-Romagna. And also thanks to this first event, we started to have our first clients, important clients. For example, the Municipality of Bologna and the region Emilia-Romagna, which are also the public bodies that are involved in the Chebec project, were also one of our first clients. Especially the Incredible project was one important project for us at the beginning. We started especially in the in providing communication services and management to cultural projects and to cultural institutions. Then in 2012, we became a company. We were 4 founding partners at the beginning. Now we are 5, and we are a team of 8-10 people. It depends on the moment, on the projects, and of course on the ups and downs. But in 2013, we moved in a larger office, and we opened a co-working space, which is now, since then, is one sort of other branch of our activity, is a side business that we run. between 2012 and 2014, we started some new big projects, always as contractors. For example, we were working closely with the city of Ravenna that was building the candidacy project to become European Capital of Culture. And this is something that is strictly related to Europe and to European project. As you may know, Ravenna did not win the competition, but it was a good second place, we may say. And we started to work with the first important national museum like the Parma National Gallery. In the last 5 years, we expanded, we explored also other territories outside our region. We have been working a lot in the city of Bergamo, in Lombardia, and in Liguria, and in other parts of the northern Italy. And we better defined our identity as a consultancy firm in audience strategies for culture. So you might ask, so where is Europe in this story? European funds were there more or less at the beginning, but in a different way compared to MeltingPro, because since 2013, BAM was subcontractor in several kinds of services for cultural and non-cultural European projects. So we're starting selling our consultancies, our services, to European projects, to institutions, public bodies, cultural organizations that were running European projects. That is to say that we were funded by European money, of course, because our contracts were depending on European money, but in a different way compared to the building of European projects and to the application to European grants. Then, in a second part of our career, from 2014-15, we started to write European applications for our clients. And we're starting to write and win European projects, not for us as partners, but for our clients. And so this was another very important experience. And then starting from 2016, finally, we, at the end of this journey, we convinced ourselves that we could be also partner of European projects. We were skeptical at the beginning. We will see why during this first webinar. European projects are not easy to be planned, are not easy to be built. The applications are difficult, and the skills that you have to put in place are not have to be at high level. And at the same time, the money that you earn out of European projects sometimes seems not to be worthy compared to the effort that you have to put into it. And so it was a gradual approach for us. At the beginning, as a firm, as a business firm, it looked very much easier just to sell our services, to provide services to European projects, and to have this kind of relations. Then from 2016, so in the last 4 years, we were gradually convinced that we could also play in another role, we might say, and we are now currently partners of 3 European projects that I will explain to you in a while. So when you are a supplier of a European project, when you are subcontractors of services, you play, nevertheless, you can play an important role in a project. One of the partners of the project is your client. You have to deal with the rules and the policies of the EU that sometimes are written on your contract, even though not so clearly. You have to read between the lines, or you have to study a bit the program that is financing this project in order to understand which are the priorities of that program, why they are giving money to that institutions to also to start a contract with a firm, which are the expectations that are into play. During the project activities, you can meet the partners, the beneficiaries, as we are doing here with Chebec project, and that from 2013 on, that gave us the opportunity to get into the play, to get into the European funding system, and to get to know more and more things about how things were organized and carried on. Communication, capacity building, strategy, reporting are some of the projects that some of the services that we provided to European project. I put on some slides the names and the projects that we were working for, just because maybe you are interested in going and see, or you will be receiving this presentation, of course. So you will have the opportunity to tap on the names and see the website when they are still in place. Just as an example, we were providing digital communication and participation on a Central Europe program that was dealing with energy efficiency of buildings. So nothing related to culture, but sometimes it can also happen that you have opportunities in other fields and you go for it. We have had the opportunity to run a capacity building, a training program in a project called Innova Museum, which was a project funded by Creative Europe, about audience development in small peripheral European museums. So we organized this training course for them. We were working for an Interreg project of cooperation between Italy and Croatia called Innoculture. The lead partner, our client was the Veneto region. In that case, it was a consultancy, a strategic consultancy about cultural tourism. So we wrote some reports about how to enhance and promote, enhance the promotion, of two museums in the Veneto region. And last but not least, an Horizon 2020 project called ROC, once again led by the Municipality of Bologna, a project about historic city centers of European cities and how to promote the cultural heritage in them, and how to about the role of cultural heritage into the sustainability of our cities. An interesting Horizon project that is still going on, so you can search it online and find their deliverables and their materials that are quite interesting to study. And we were involved because we did the communication and engagement part of a civic crowdfunding campaign that was an activity of the project, a civic crowdfunding campaign that was supporting urban green spaces in Bologna. These are some images from the project that I was talking about. And then another project that we were very much linked to, this time on the side of the project design. It's a project called Performing Gender, a Creative Europe project led by il Cassero LGBTI Center of the City of Bologna, the LGBT Center of the City of Bologna, and one of the most important of its kind in Italy, that was involved in this cooperation project about contemporary dance and representation of the LGBT identities. Specifically in one of these applications, the one that we were involved in, we had to build the project that we have to build. It was a capacity building project addressed to dance professionals, contemporary dance professionals, both dancers and dramaturgs and artistic directors, aimed at developing new kind of skills, and in order for them to, for the sector of contemporary dance to be able to develop new narratives for LGBTI identities. The project has been financed 3 times now by the European Union, twice as a small-scale cooperation project, and more recently as a large-scale cooperation project that will start its new activities in November 2020. So if you go on their website, performinggender.eu, you can see the results and the dissemination of the results of the last 2 rounds of projects since 2013. And you also may be connected to their social media and wait for the new project to start in November. For us, it was a very big opportunity to be able to write and to build such a complex project together with the partners, discussing with them, collecting the ideas and the contents, building the budget. And then it was a big satisfaction when the project was selected. We actually built 2 applications for them. The first one was not selected, and the second one was selected. And so we have been part of this project for a while. We also worked for the communication and dissemination of the project, but the most important thing, of course, for us was to be able to write and to win the application for funding. And then finally, in 2016, the University of Bologna proposed to us to be partner in our Horizon 2020 project, in a project called Perceive that was running from the 2016 to 2019. The website is still online, so you can find all the documents about it. It was a 3-year research to investigate how citizens in different European regions feel European and whether they feel the effects of the cohesion policies implemented by the EU. So it was a reflection of the European Union about the European policies and their European funding. And it was a big challenge for us. It was the first time that we were partnering in a project, and we had to we were in charge of the work package of communication and dissemination of the project results. So we were dealing both with the social media strategy and with the press office and of the documentation and dissemination of meetings all around Europe. It was a very important step for us. And it was also a sort of change of mindset, because we realized that we might do many of the things that we were doing before as subcontractors, also as partners, of course, under certain conditions. We will see in a while that Horizon 2020 is one of the programs that finances more, we might say more generously, the activities of the project. So it was easier for us to start on this with a project like that. But after that, we received other proposals. We started to search for them ourselves. And we are now still partners of 3 other European projects. One is called ChinArts, is a project about film literacy, financed by the Creative Europe program in the media part. It's a project about learning art at school through cinema, led by the Cineteca di Bologna. It's a partnership between national film archives, national film libraries, and BAM is the only partner who is not a film archive, but is the partner involved on the side of audience development strategies. It's the partner that has to be sure that this web platform that the partners are constructing, this web platform that should be used by teachers and by teachers in the school to teach art history and architecture and visual arts through the films, through the scenes, to the images that are into these film archives and libraries. We are the partners that have to be sure that the necessities and the needs of the audiences, of different audiences, are taken into account in building this platform. And it's a very challenging project, very interesting, that maybe the ones of you that are working in the audiovisual and in the film sector might be interested in knowing and in studying. We are of course available to give information about it. Then there is this CREMA project, which is an Erasmus Plus project led by a museum in Sweden. It's a project about how creative making and how the world of 3D printing and Fab Labs can be useful to involve other kind of audiences in museums. It's also relating to a network called Museumix that we are part of. It's a quite interesting international project. And then, last but not least, MOI, or Museums of Impact, a Creative Europe large-scale cooperation project, which is trying to build, an evaluation framework for European museums, a sort of strategic framework based on social impact. And we are the partners who have to engage and connect the project to the Italian museum professional community. So this is how we grew during the years, starting with as subcontractors and then going towards the partnerships of European project, also in Creative Europe Erasmus Plus program. And so we assist organizations in designing and writing, especially Creative Europe and Erasmus Plus projects. We have an expertise in communication and dissemination of the activities of European projects, and we can build capacity building programs and tools. And we still have this double role of subcontractors and partners in doing our activities. So thanks for your attention, and we are, I think, more or less on time, maybe some also in advance a bit. We want to, we can start with the second part of our webinar today, which is about European vocabulary. The idea of this second part is that many of the things that we have mentioned during our two business cases, our two experiences with the European project can be put in a sort of list and can be explained a bit more. And so I will pass the word to Antonia once again.
Yes, thank you, Federico. I'll just share again my screen. Okay, yes. So as Federico mentioned, when we try to think about this webinar, which is an introduction to, it's the first webinar of a series of webinars that are going to tackle different aspects of this European funding system, which for some of you, as you said, can be quite confusing. So we thought about how to introduce you to this vocabulary, because one of the things that we think that it's important is to understand this terminology. I remember in one of the first European projects I was part in, even before MeltingPro, we were with some British partners, and I don't know if you remember, but before the Erasmus Plus, there was the lifelong learning program, which had this transversal program engaging different targets. And you know, these British partners, they didn't know what transversal meant, you know, because in Europe, we use a vocabulary, a language that it's the sum of different experiences, and sometimes not even British people can understand it. So let's see now your words. Oops. Sorry, I think I've have to, yeah, here. Sorry, I have to, here. Sorry, I had to recharge the presentation. Okay, so let's have a look at your ideas, your words, opportunities, cooperation, learning, development, and we tackle a little bit about that. Horizons, details, needs a lot of time. I think Federico also mentioned this in his presentation. Money and bureaucracy, which is true. Project money and confusion, as Sergio is mentioned. I mean, as also Federico mentioned in his presentation, it's true. I mean, all of these are true, but what we would like you to get out from this webinar, that it can be really worth it. So we'll get back to this also into your Q&A questions, and so through this part of the first part of the vocabulary, probably I will try to address some of these ideas that words that you mentioned. Just to say that in about 20 minutes we're going to have a break, so for you to stretch your legs. So if you can bear with me another more or less 20 minutes, and we will have a short break. So what we are going to talk about today. So as I said, we wanted to introduce you to the European vocabulary, direct, indirect funds, relevance, European added value, partnership. These are the words I'm going to explain. I'm going to try to illustrate also through some examples what they're meant within a European context. And Federico, in the second part, is going to tackle, you know, what does it mean to be profit, non-profits, profit, grants, loans, financing, co-financing, commitment, and sustainability. So I mean, if you ever enrolled in a European project training course, the first thing they mention is the fact that there are some funds that are directly managed by the European Commission, and these are divided and managed by the Directorate General responsible for the matter. So, for example, the creative industries, they have culture and education. There is the Directorate Culture and Education, and they manage the Creative Europe program, Europe for Citizens, the Erasmus Plus program. So a first way is to understand that there are funds directly managed by the European Union, and each directorate is responsible for a subject, for a matter. These grants, they have, I mean, to apply to these grants, and usually they are done through call of proposals, you need to demonstrate the European added value. You really need to demonstrate the European dimension. And I will mention this a little bit further on. So this is a first insight. And then there are the ones that are managed, usually known indirectly, indirect, which is a shared management in real, but you know, we usually refer to them as indirect funds. And these are grants that are managed by the national authorities. So, for example, for instance, in Italy, it's the regional authorities, and for example, Chebec. It's a program that it's managed by the regional authorities. And the proposal, they can be written in the language of the country in question. And they usually, probably you will have heard of them. It's the European Regional Development Funds and the European Social Fund. Usually, for example, through the European Social Fund, they invest in human capital. Usually, you take part in training courses that are that, I don't know, training centers apply for this European Social Funds through the regions. So they're usually dedicated to this. And the European Regional Development Fund, the idea behind it is that not only the nations, let's say the countries, should have equal opportunities, but also the regions. It's a way of financing and giving equal opportunities to the different regions. So, and then you have also the territorial cooperation programs, which, you know, they come through also negotiations processes between the member states and the European Commission, but they are usually devoted to special topics like cooperation between regions, like Interreg, Alcotra, Urbact. So they are devoted to special topics. And some of you also in your application said, wrote, you know, what makes a proposal successful. So in here, we wanted to explain really what makes a proposal successful. So it's relevant, the relevance of the proposal, the quality of the project design and implementation, the quality of the cooperation between the partners, and the impact, a real detailed explanation of the impact you want to make through your project. Of course, everything is based on evidence, so needs analysis, and it helps you to, as we mentioned earlier, it helps you to innovate and create, for example, new products or new cultural experiences. Okay, so now I'm going to tackle more in depth relevance, European added value, and partnership cooperation. And as I said, I will show you some feedbacks we had by the evaluators of the projects that we submitted. And I hope that it was a good idea, you know, to show you what these terms mean. So basically relevance, you know, when we talk about relevance in European projects in general, but especially in European projects, it really replies to the question, how does the project contribute to the objectives and the priorities of the EU fund? So you really have to understand, I think Federico mentioned this also in his presentation, you know, why the European Commission is allocating that money for that sector. So, you know, what are the priorities that program is trying to achieve? Because when you apply, you have to demonstrate that your project is actually a way of addressing those topics, is a way of achieving those objectives and priority. And of course, this is all based on needs analysis. So you really have to demonstrate how this is going to change the situation, how it's going to have an impact on the beneficiaries that you have chosen. And these are also all in line with the Commission priorities. I mean, this is I just put here the one for the next years. But Europe is investing a lot in Green Deal, digital age, social cohesion, and you know, health, well-being of people, and of course the EU priorities are also aligned with the global goals for sustainable development. So there is a link with that. So what do we mean by relevance? Relevance to the priorities of the project and the expected impact on the beneficiaries. So how our project is able to solve the problem that we are supposed to address. It's one of the highest points. This is a screenshot from the Erasmus Plus guide. So it's, you know, it gives you 30 points in the application, and you know, you can read it here, but you know, the Erasmus Plus program wants to give opportunities to all people from all walks of life, from all ages, to develop their skills, because competencies are important for active citizens. So these are the main goals of the Erasmus Plus project. And this is the award criteria, I mean the relevance, that scored a quite good point. It was from the Adeste Plus project. So as you can read, you know, the application clearly addresses the priority. At that time, it was the sector skills alliances. They were testing these sector skills alliances, but now in the Erasmus Plus project is a new strand of application. And as I read here, as the action aims at providing adequate training to fill the gap of competencies needed by cultural managers to ensure cultural sector capacity building. As I said, you really have to explain how your project is going to fulfill those priorities. I also put another one here of connecting audiences. Actually, this project went into the reserve list, and then it was granted afterwards. So as you can see, the relevance is quite good. It's not that high. But I mean, this is one of the schemes maybe you could look at, because it really helps. It's called the Knowledge Alliance scheme, and it helps organizations like us of the creative culture industry to build bridges with universities and to develop some new services, some new tools, some new ideas for example, as we are in the creative and cultural sector, for the cultural sector. Now, the European added value. This is the most, let's say, tricky and sometimes actually quite difficult to make it more tangible in a European application. But it's really key that when you apply to especially direct managed funds, that you show how your EU fund, your project generates additional beneficial results compared to a local fund. So basically, is the ability of a project to produce results that have a European dimension, that are produced by the collective intelligence of all the partners involved. So they have to have an impact that goes beyond the local context, the national context. Basically, it's a distinctive factor, and it's something that I mean, it's really, it's not only that you bring, I don't know, your product or service, let's say in Europe, but it really has to somehow change also with the, let's say, feedbacks or the competencies of the other partners. I wanted to show you here some tips how to make this more tangible in a European project application. So for example, here I highlighted that the results of the project are exploitable in several European countries, because they also see if you develop something in a European project, how this model can be transferable in other countries. And something that they look is also the linguistic and cultural issues. You know, so for example, if you develop products in other languages, you know, so that, I don't know, you build a new toolkit, and, you know, ideally, you should translate it in the languages that maybe are less acquainted with English language, for example, and so that it becomes more accessible and more exploitable at local level. And although this is another one I put here because I wanted to also show you that the transferability factor, that when you develop something, it has to be transferable, but you have to also somehow explain how this is going to benefit the local context and how you're going to develop a strategy that is going to fit in the national, your national specificity. Okay, and then the last word, I think, is cooperation and partnerships. And as a suggestion, it's really important to think as partners, as a team, so that you are actually growing a group of people that are united under a same goal and are tackling the issue that you're trying to resolve with your project. So some of the key elements to build a strong partnership is the quality of the project team. So all the curricula is going to be addressed, the cooperation arrangements, and how each partner is going to contribute to the project, and also a balanced geographical scope. But of course, this it's really in line with the idea you want to develop. So you shouldn't put partners from different countries just because, you know, once there was this, when I started European project, there was this idea if you had a project from new members, this was immediately financed. Well, it's not true. Now the market, you know, you have to build a proposal that has a meaning, that has a sense, and you have to build a partnership that helps you to deliver the project. And that, you know, partners should feel the real ownership of the project. And this really helps in the implementation stage. Yeah, so I put here some other examples of yes, of evaluation comments. So as you can see, you know, they really see how each partner fits into the proposal and how this contributes to achieving the goals of the project. And also, you know, why you are inviting, I don't know, a university, or why you are inviting this particular theater. So you really have to explain the reasons behind the composition of the partnership. Okay, so to sum up, relevance, it's about how your project is relevant to the priorities of the programs that you are applying to. To build a strong application project, you need to explain this European added value, especially for direct funds. You need to explain the quality of the project team and the cooperation, the partnership, how you build this partnership. And it has to be based on a needs analysis, and you know, you have to show how your project contributes to those priorities to solve that problem. I just added here this reference to the survival kit, which is an old Grundtvig multilateral project from the lifelong learning, and it really helped me a lot at the beginning to understand European project design and management. So you have it here with the slides. I think, okay, we now have 5 minutes break, right?
Yes,
Massimo, yeah?
Yeah, because we thought that it's already more than 1 hour that we are talking here, and it's a bit too much in this webinar setting. So I agree that we have to pause for 5 minutes, then we can start with the second part of the vocabulary and then go for the Q&A. So I would recommend to everyone, also in this short pause, if you want, if you have questions or if you have also something that was particularly interesting for you. Yeah, we are a bit in advance, so we can also pause some minutes more, maybe after 6. Just for you to have the opportunity to reflect about something that you want to ask. Once again, the section is Q&A or DNR, if you have the Italian version of Zoom. And we will use the last part, the last half an hour, to answer to your question. We are going quite fast, so we might be arrived to the Q&A also before 6:30. But yes, I think we can now take a pause, take a break until 6. Okay? See you later. So here we are again. Massimo, do you hear me? Yes. So it's time for me to start the second part of the vocabulary. I will now share my slides. Like this. So in the first part, Antonia was dealing with the first column. I'll go for the second. And once again, I am trying to answer maybe your curiosity or your questions from the side of a business firm. More than of a business project. We are trying in all this webinar to keep these two voices. European funding for associations, non-profit, cultural projects, cultural associations, and for cultural businesses, because you subscribers and beneficiaries of Chebec project and community of incredible project are can fit in both categories. So I think it's useful for you to know what you can or cannot do in starting from your condition, we might say. So if you are a creative business, first of all, the most important thing that you have to know is that businesses and profit organizations can be beneficiaries of EU funds. For in many of our European states, cultural funding is sometimes directed more to non-profit organizations. This is not true for European funds. There is this new part of the European Commission website that I would like to show you. I am showing it now. Massimo, can you give me thank you. There is this new part of the website which is quite interesting, I think, because it's very, very clear and simple. This page, who is eligible for funding, starts exactly with small and medium-sized businesses, with so-called SMEs, so the small and medium-sized enterprises, the SMEs. And it says that they can apply for grants, loans, and guarantees, but they can also bid for contracts to provide goods and services. And I think that this is quite interesting. As you see, then the page addresses also NGOs, young people, because you can also apply if you are a single person, not just organizations can apply for EU money, researchers, farmers, public bodies. But what I was interested in showing to you now is this sentence, because I think it's interesting to understand once again that you can apply for grants, but you can also bid for contracts. You should not think about European money as something that you have to apply for in your project activity as a cultural organization. But if you provide services, the European Commission, the European Union may be interested in buying your services. So you could, for example, you may bid, so you may do some procurement procedures issued by the European Union and be able to be awarded by a contractor to provide goods and services. I think that this is an important distinction to be aware of. And so coming back to my slides here, this is what I was telling you about. And I was particularly interested in explaining to you, so the difference between profit and non-profit, but also the difference between grants and loans. Because what Antonia was telling you about in the first part was quite just regarding the grants. Then you have also the loans that are to another kind of action that the European Commission can do, especially toward businesses in this case. Once again, there is a nice page on the website, types of funding, grants, loans, guarantees and equity, subsidies, prices, public contracts. This is something that one can be interested maybe in reading with attention. There are links. You can always see, you are always taken in other parts of the gigantic European Commission website to deepen this topic. I think it's also interesting that they put subsidies here, but they put it to say subsidies are managed directly by the EU national governments, not by European Commission, with one big exception, that are the subsidies to agriculture. So actually the so-called agricultural policy of the European Common Agricultural Policy of the European Commission can give subsidies to farmers, but not to us, not to the cultural sector. Subsidies is something that is managed by the national government, not by the European Commission. So coming back to the slides, I was telling you that grants are the ones that Antonia has explained you about before. Grants are awarded to organizations and occasionally individuals to help them carry out projects that further European policies, not each kind of policy, not each and every kind of projects, but just the projects that are in line in the framework of European policies. Once grants are awarded, rarely up to 100%, are always a form of so-called complementary financing. And that is also another thing that is very important to know. The grants are advertised by the European Commission through so-called calls of proposals that are issued periodically. It depends on programs, it depends on targets, but are issued periodically. On the contrary, loans, guarantees, equities are instruments that are targeted especially to the business sector, are a form of financial assistance because loans are given to businesses for all types of investment in research and innovation. And guarantees can help beneficiaries, businesses, once again, to obtain loans more easily or at a better condition from banks or from institutes that deals with credit policies. So the European Commission can help you to have money from someone else if you are also if you are a cultural and creative firm. We will see when we will deal about Creative Europe program that some years ago the Creative Europe program started special action, especially regarding creative and cultural and creative industries and businesses. That is an instrument of guarantee. In each state of the European Union, there is a different intermediary that has signed an agreement with the European Commission to guarantee for loans to the cultural and creative sector. We talked about financing and co-financing, and so this is the next words that I want to explain you a little bit more. The vast majority of European grants finances only a percentage of your budget of activities. Normally, the costs that are related directly to the implementation of the activities. So a typical European project European grant, will cover your travel costs, will cover some part of your purchases or rentals that are related to the implementation of your activities, will cover parts of your staff costs, but they will not cover your, we might say, your structural costs, your fixed costs, your overheads. They will, but in a very small part. Normally, the budget of a European project will tell you there are very strict rules to build this kind of budget, and they will tell you that, for example, the 7% of your total amount of budget can be added to your budget, and it's devoted to cover a part of your overhead costs, of your indirect costs. So to be clear, it can be used to pay the bills in this sense. But it's a very it's a sort of exception. It's not the rule, and this is very important for you to know that this kind of project cover your activities, the activities that the projects are intended to do, and the staff that is involved in them. But it's very difficult that they cover much more than that. I also put some percentage. Creative Europe in the culture sector. You know, Creative Europe is divided, we'll see it in the next webinars, in two main chapters, we might say, Creative Europe Culture and Creative Europe Media. Creative Europe Culture covers up to 50 or maximum 60% of the budget of your project. So has quite a low rate of co-financing. Whereas Creative Europe Media can reach to maximum 80%. Creative Europe Media has very different calls for proposals, very different projects that you can apply for. Many of them just give you a lump sum, we will see later, so a fixed amount of money regarding to the nature of your project. Some other cover a percentage of your budget, and some specific calls, for example, I think international cooperation, international co-productions in audiovisual products, some part also of the cinema festivals or networks of cinema festivals. They will arrive to the 80% of the budget, but it's quite rare. Normally it's less. Then you have some other mechanisms of funding, like Europe for Citizens, which is a small program, actually, but quite interesting to do actions, especially with young people. They give you lump sums, that is to say, that give you a fixed amount of money, depending on how many people are you involving in your, for example, in your activities. That is similar to how Erasmus Plus works. Erasmus Plus has a sort of fixed sum that they can multiply, that you can calculate and you can multiply, and depending on how many activities are you doing, how many people you are involving in your activities, how many travels you will face in your mobility project, because many Erasmus Plus projects are about mobility of the professionals. And so there is a fixed amount of money that they will give you as a sort of reimbursement of the expenses that you have already undertake. So it's something that will cover some expenses that you have already undertaken, or sometimes that you still have to undertake, but it's a kind of funding management that is quite strict, that is quite difficult for you to earn money up of this project. It's much more a reimbursement of expenses that you are facing. There are also some exceptions, like Horizon 2020. I've already talked about this. The research and innovation parts of the European budget are quite generous in the financing of the activities. There are also some Horizon projects that are financed up to 100%. But it's also true that the process of application of this kind of projects are quite heavy. And it's true that are normally undertaken by, for example, research institutes or universities, or this kind of institutions. Probably something will change in the next 7 years. I hope that we can build a specific webinar on that, because of course Horizon is one of the most interesting programs also for the cultural sector, and it will become more and more interesting in the next years. But yes, this is a bit these are some of the co-financing rates for different programs of the European budget. So some of you may ask themselves, is it worthy? Is it worthy to go for European funding? Is it not too difficult? Is it not too heavy for a small organization to undergo this kind of project? My answer would be, I don't know, it depends. It depends on your commitment. This is another key word, I think. If you happen to cross an opportunity of a project, if you cross the opportunity to go for a project in which you can be partner at the beginning, maybe not lead partner, but partner. So maybe you don't have to deal directly with all the application process at the beginning. But you feel that the project is really close to your core business and to your core values. That might be worthy for your organization to go for it, because the dialogue that you may put in place with other organizations around Europe will, of course, enrich the people that take part in this process. But it is also true, I would also add, that it is worthy if you think that your organization can be able to build a network of relationships upon this cultural project, this European opportunity. So if you think that the network and the relations that will be opened up by these European opportunities are very important for the growth of your organization, for your staff, then it might be worthy. But third condition, I think, you have to be able to involve your staff. If your organization, if you're a medium-sized organization, small, medium-sized organization, for example, our organization is composed by 8, 10, 12 people. And it's not easy if 2 or 3 people are involved in a European project to be always able to involve all the rest of the group in the things that are happening in the project, in the debates, in the dialogues, in the European and international dialogues that arise during a project like this. It can be a huge opportunities, but sometimes we have the risk that this opportunity is wasted if we are not able to set a dialogue and to mainstream the opportunity of the European project together in our organizations, in our, also to our local stakeholders, in our local territory, in our city, region, or state. So if the project stays in the bubble, in the European bubble, and it's like an opportunity for you to travel, to see people every now and then, to talk with professionals, but then you are not able to build something on your own and on your territory upon that, that is not probably, I think it's not probably worthy. I wrote here that it's not so much a question of how much you want to earn from this project, but rather it's a question of how much you will to invest on them. Because doing European project is, I think, first and foremost, an investment of time, of resources, of skills, of staff and money. But it can be an investment, an interesting investment, of course, because to go for a European project, you have to build skills in your organization, skills of reporting, skills of budgeting, skills of understanding and addressing European priorities and European policies. And that can be very interesting for also for a small European, a small cultural organizations. The last word that I want to share with you is the most important, that is sustainability. For us, in our experience, we decided to go for European projects when we realized that it was really sustainable. When you go for a risk, cost-benefit evaluation, you evaluate all the risks, and you ask yourself these questions, like, how strategic is the project for my business? Is it able to bring innovation in my business model? Will I be able to do something differently after this European project? Is it opening for me business opportunities that can be game-changing for my business? Not because I will start to sell maybe sell my products or my services abroad. This might not be the case, but maybe I will be able to build a project or product in Italy in a different way, because I was able to dialogue with other firms, with other possible clients abroad, and I understood some needs in a different way, and I'm able then to respond to these needs in a different way. Other questions that I think might be interesting is, can I support through a European project some pilot activities? So, for example, do you want to do something but you don't know how to start? You want to set up a new activity, or you want to do something different, but build something new is, of course, always difficult, because you have to invest time, money, resources. If you do it through an European project, sometimes the project can cover some costs. But if you wanted to go for something new, and this new experience, this new activity would be otherwise loss-making, so would be an activity that was not profitable for your business, then through a European project, you may get the opportunity to at least have some of the costs reimbursed, covered. So maybe you have not earned upon that, but you did not lose money in doing it. This is a business consideration that I would suggest you to think about. For example, marketing or networking activities that normally are have a certain cost can be, in this sense, covered by the activities of a European project. And last but not least, if I have other 5 minutes as a sort of bonus, follow the policy is one other suggestion that I would absolutely recommend to you. We talked a lot about policies in this webinar. We told you that projects are about be able to stick to the European priorities, to follow them. Otherwise, your project will not be financed and will not be interesting for the European Commission. But how do you follow the policy? Online, mainly. 1 year ago, I would have said going to meetings and events, but in this our new framework is quite difficult. But online on the website of the European Commission, and especially on ec.europa.eu/culture, that is the website of the cultural policies, you can find many important documents that are constantly updated about the European cultural policies. This is the website. Voila. Policies. These are the things that I suggest you to know and to learn by heart. Which are the European competencies in the field of culture, which is the strategic framework for the EU cultural policy. There are some documents that are really the baseline of the European cultural policies. These documents are the European Agenda for Culture that was issued first time in 2007, and then for a second time, in 2018, it was renewed. These are the documents that set the basis of European policies, that tells you what Europe wants to do with culture for their citizens, for their member states, for their stakeholders, in their external relation, in the relation with other states of the world. Then you have the work plans, also very important. You have work plans. We are now in the work plan for culture covering the period 2019-2022. So it's important for you to read it. It's the work plan set by the Council. These are the priorities, for example: sustainability and cultural heritage, cohesion and well-being, an ecosystem supporting artists, cultural, creative, professional, European content, gender equality, international cultural relations, and culture as a driver for sustainable development. There is also something called the structured dialogue. The structured dialogue is, how the European Commission dialogues with European professionals. There is a website, once again, called Voices of Culture. That is the name of this platform of dialogue between professionals and the Commission. In this website, you see many reports, you see the notes of many meetings. It might not be easy to find your way into it, but it's very interesting once you understand how it works. And these Voices of Culture initiatives are still going on, I think, and you can also participate. Go there, tell what do you think the European Commission should do for you and for the European sector, cultural sector. There are also the Cultural Forum that are meetings that the European Commission organizes. It was every 2 years. Now I don't know which is now the plan. Maybe they will do it online for the next future, and that are also very important and nice events that normally take place in Brussels. But we had one of those in Milan some years ago. About the reflection and confrontation on European cultural policy. Don't forget that you have also the European Commission priorities, the general European Commission priorities. So not the European Commission priorities on culture, but the priorities in general. And these are also quite easy to be found online. Oh, this is in Italian, I'm sorry, but Deutsch, okay. So the European Green Deal, the digital age, the economy that works for people, the stronger Europe in the world, blah, blah, blah. So this is the things that you have to read and have to know before wanting to undertake a journey into the world of European funding. Antonia, if you want to join me for the takeaways, this is something that with Antonia we wrote, trying to sum up the most important things of that we think are the key takeaways of these 2 hours together. You want Antonia to underline something?
Oh, thank you, Federico. Yeah, I think, you know, whatever, as we wrote here, whatever the size, the purpose, probably you will find, you know, a grant or a loan or, you know, what Federico was mentioning that can suit your organization. Of course, I mean, it can be quite confusing. And probably you don't know where to start, but there are many info points, also regional level, that can help you. And as Federico was mentioning, I mean, now also online there are many ways of understanding, you know, which are the programs, the call of proposals available. Although we were talking with Federico and Massimo that the you know, the EU Commission website is not always user friendly. They're always changing it, but it's also divided into targets, so you can find your way also there. And as Federico was mentioning, is you know, taking into account the EU priorities, because they will also help you to develop new business ideas. And I mean, work in collaboration, because I think Federico agrees with me. Also, if you are a subcontractor, you have to work in collaboration with the other partners. So you have to create that space for collaboration. And yes, you know, as I said, it's a way of developing new ideas, to develop ideas in your country. And because sometimes you can feel alone, instead you can see that in Europe there is somebody that marries, it's aligned with your way of thinking. So yes, now you will start this process. I mean, in some of the replies, some of you have tried, have failed, but, you know, try again. I mean, we have failed many projects. So actually, sometimes it's also rare that you are, that your first application gets granted.
Of course.
So it's a way of improving.
And as I was telling you before, it's a matter of building your own sustainability. You have to try to understand also at what stake it is worthy for you to go for applications or for European funding. Sometimes one failed application can be reproposed, reshaped, and can become something else that is maybe not even more a European project, but something that you can develop on a national scale. So you have to be also clever and change your ideas sometimes and do things differently of what you had planned initially. And then, of course, learn the vocabulary we said in the end. I think we may go for our last part now. So for the Q&A, I don't know if we have many questions or not, and where can we start? I'm taking a look. Let's see the question that we have. Allora I have to do like this to see the question. That was from Tihana, and was like this: applying as a partner for EU funds and implementing as a partner an EU funded project is a full-time job for at least one member of the participating firm company. It is maybe more a reflection than a real question and proposal for a possible topic. So I think it is about how do you have to invest your staff time on applications and then on implementation of a project. I would say that if you apply as a partner, so if you are not involved in the general application, like you're not the lead partner, but you are one of the partners, the time that you have to invest in the application phase is not that much. It's something that I think is something that an organization can afford quite easily. Of course, you have to have some basic skills, but you probably, it's the lead partner that go for most of the job when you applicate in this kind of project. Do you agree, Antonia?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Yes, I mean, it's true that it takes time, but if you are a kind of a subcontractor or you design your role in the project in some ways, you don't have, it doesn't take that much time. And as I said, it's an investment. So, I mean, if you really think to apply as a partner, as a subcontractor, it's because you are committed to that project. Of course, if you are a subcontractor, you don't have all the administration burden that you would have as being a partner. Because, I mean, it's true that some of you mentioned bureaucracy. still, although they have tried to simplify some of the bureaucracy, still is quite, I mean, you have to take into account this, especially if you are a partner in a directly funded project.
Then the question of Tihana was also about implementation of the project. That it depends. Of course, this depends by how the project is organized and built. So when you build the project, an application for a project, let's say a Creative Europe project or an Erasmus Plus project, you build your budget. You build your budget stating that a part of the time of your staff, of your personnel, will be devoted to the implementation of the project. So it's up to you to decide when you build the application how much time you want your staff to be involved in the activities, and that will, of course, change the shape and the nature of your budget. So I hope I have answered, but I think that the answer is it's up to you to decide how the job is, how much the job is hard for your staff. Then, of course, how you shape your budget in the application, it's not always. It's not given that in the implementation of the project everything goes as you had planned, of course. So there might be some surprises why implementing the project. You might understand that the project is much more time consuming than you had thought at the beginning. This is always, I mean, this can always happen, of course. If we have other questions from our wonderful attendees that are still with us, we are available also to give you the word and to let you speak, to give you the word and the face, in the sense that we can let you also open your camera if you want and ask some questions live. But so we can give you maybe some other minutes if some of you want to ask a question. Otherwise, we are completely available to answer your questions also after the webinar. See other questions coming, but you still can do it if you want. Okay, we will send you out the link of this recording in 1 or 2 days. We have to. It's the first time for us, so we have to understand how does it work, and I hope we'll be able to send you the link, and we will find also the way to share with you the presentation, the slides. And if you have questions or if you want to share doubts or requests for the following webinars, please write us at this email, chebec@bamstrategieculturali.com. I leave you the address there so you can note it down. Maybe Massimo, please copy and paste the address also in the chat with all the attendees. At the same address, you can also start sharing with us your needs and requests about the mentoring program that we are going to start in the following weeks. We will probably collect your requests and your needs and try to build some small groups and then ask you to organize meetings this time face-to-face with singular organizations or with small groups of organizations that share more or less the same need. For example, that want to have a mentorings on a specific part of an application or a specific program or a general overview on some themes. I don't know, it's something that we will build together. We as in BAM, my firm, BAM Strategie Culturali, will coordinate also this part, but once again, we will also ask for help to our friends, maybe of MeltingPro, and to other professionals in Europa that you will meet next week, and to other professionals that can help us to fulfill your needs, your specific needs. I think we are okay for today. If we don't have other questions, I won't stay and stall the time of our attendees and panelists for too much. So if you agree, Antonia, we can stop the webinar.
Yeah, it was a lot of information. I hope Sergio, who said it was confusing, was not that, well, I'm not sure if it helped his confusion, but probably this training that, you know, the way it is organized, it will help.
Yeah. So next time, next Wednesday, 4:30, for those who have subscribed, but also for all the others, you are still on time. You will follow the webinar on the map of European funds. So all the things that we just explained in a how can we say, in a more personal way, will be ordered with some rationality into the map of European funds. Thank you, Antonia, for your contribution. Thank you, Massimo. And for all the others, we see each other on the screen in the next weeks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.